Hey mama, is your baby just nursing, and then nursing some more? This is known as cluster feeding, and it can be frustrating and uncomfortable and maybe even make you doubt if you can keep breastfeeding. But in this video, you're going to learn why your baby is doing this and how to stay calm and confident while your baby cluster feeds. I'm Bridget and I'm a childbirth educator and birth doula, and if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell so you don't miss any future videos. Cluster feeding is when your baby wants to nurse many times in a short span of time, and the time between each feed is very close. While your baby is cluster feeding, they might fall asleep for a short time between feedings, they might nurse for just a little bit of time and then pull away from the breast, and they might seem just cranky and irritated. They're crying, they're fussy, and difficult to soothe other than putting them to the breast yet again. When your baby is cluster feeding, you might feel physically and emotionally exhausted, you might be frustrated, you're irritable too, and you might even be doubting whether or not you can keep breastfeeding. Let me tell you, mama, this is normal. There is nothing wrong with you or your baby or your milk. A lot of times mamas start to panic because they think baby is not getting enough milk. But guess what? They probably are. And if they aren't for some reason, cluster feeding is going to help stimulate more milk production to increase your supply. Cluster feeding often happens during the early days of breastfeeding. Why? Because your baby is telling your body to start making ample amounts of milk for them to be nourished by. It also happens because your baby is growing like crazy in those first 6 weeks when cluster feeding happens a lot. When your baby goes through a growth spurt, it's also likely that they're going to cluster feed to help fuel the growth that they are about to go through. They might feed more frequently than usual for a few days and nights, and then the next several days they'll be sleepier. This behavior is often due to a growth spurt. Another reason why your baby might want to cluster feed is because they need comfort. In those early days, weeks, and months, your baby is taking in so much around them. This world is so big and overwhelming for them. Everything is new, and it's easy for babies to get overstimulated. Being close to you, feeling your warmth, smelling you, and then sucking is going to provide a lot of comfort for them. Sucking actually helps soothe babies because it releases hormones that lower stress in their bodies. In the early weeks, it's best to allow your baby to nurse as often as they want to help establish milk supply. When your baby is cluster feeding, here are some things you can do to stay calm and confident. First, remember that your breasts always have milk in them. It's easy to get stressed out because your breasts feel empty and baby keeps wanting to nurse, making you think they're not getting enough milk, and this is not usually the case. If baby is not gaining weight or wetting plenty of diapers, then it's a good idea to get an assessment for lip or tongue tie, which might be affecting their ability to drain the breast during feedings, which is making them want to feed so often like a cluster feed. But usually cluster feeding is totally normal and they are getting milk when they are coming to the breast. Second, expect cluster feedings to happen, but know that it will end. Babies often want to cluster feed in the evening, so try to get some rest earlier on in the day. Then, as you are cluster feeding, try listening to affirmations while you're nursing to help you relax and even bond with your baby, and you can get the Built to Birth affirmation meditations linked down below. Third, fuel yourself so you can fuel your baby. Our fuel comes in many forms: food, water, encouragement, physical support, etc. It's hard to care for a very needy newborn when you're running off fumes, so fuel yourself. Ask others to help fuel you with support while you're leading the way in the beautiful work of raising a tiny and very dependent human. Fourth, don't forget to breathe. It's amazing how a few deep and purposeful breaths can drastically lower stress. And 5, try bouncing your baby on a birth ball. You might not be able to do that while you're nursing, but afterwards, the bouncing movement has always been a game changer. I've linked my favorite birth ball down below. Mamas, you're not alone when you're going through this, and I hope after watching this video, you'll feel more calm and confident when those cluster feeds come. Thanks for being with me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, mamas.